Hi, everyone. Okay, so I wasn't going to do this today, but given that I just received an email from Ms. Aquila, which we'll be going through in depth in the next little bit, I felt the need to make this video. Now, at the Court of Appeal hearing, I did two motions, both which we'll also go over. I've partially gone over one of them, and that was for custody. So it's been over 150 days since I've last seen or heard anything from my kids, um, being Ashley Johnson and Alex Johnson. Um, they've been being denied to me for, well, over 150 days now. Um, I am still working as a social worker. I actually no, that's all the information I'm going to say on that one. Um, but I am being denied access to my children. Um, and this seems to be okay with the Manitoba courts, um, denying me my rights as a Manitoba citizen and a Canadian citizen, violating my human rights, violating my constitutional rights. These are seem to be just another day in the courts, apparently. Um, so this is Audrey's affidavit. I blocked out her address and her phone number for her privacy. Um, but she was a witness at the hearing, so we're going to go over this. And she did the same affidavit for the other motion as well, for the simple reason that just because of ease. Um, So here it says that she's known that she's supervised me with the children since um, summer of 2022. It goes on to say on October 25th, 2022, which was the trial for custody, without consultation, um, without the judge consulting with her or her husband or myself, um, the judge decided that Audrey and Philippe were to be supervisors for me and my children. Um, Now, they didn't consult Audrey or Philippe, and yet their names were named on the order. They are a completely outside party out of, of the custody hearing. They never asked for any of this. And yet the judge ordered that they put in unpaid service to um, help this situation, which um, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, but it is essentially indentured servitude because if an official body goes up to you and says you don't have a choice, that um, you don't have a choice, you have to work, and we're not going to put um, any sort of pay in place for you to work. You're just being expected to do this. And you're going to be expected to do this for the length of this order, which for this case, it's until the kids are 18. So it is indentured servitude, at least from my understanding of the definition of indentured servitude. And I'm actually just going to Google what that means. I can actually read off the actual definition. So if you go to kind of want a dictionary's version, not Wikipedia's. Oh, we'll do Wikipedia, whatever. So, Wikipedia defines indentured servitude as a form of labor in which a person is contracted to work without salary for a specific number of years. Now, it is my understanding that slavery, which essentially is unpaid labor, is illegal in Canada. But this is being allowed and promoted in this order. Um, Now, this order creates a situation that is unhealthy for um, well, both the Canadian justice system and my kids in general. Nobody's going to want to work without pay. And yet, that is now the expectation because of the order that Justice Thompson put in place. And in my next video, I will again be putting up the order. Unfortunately, I can't do it all in one video. Um, but this is Audrey's affidavit. It also goes on to say on how the order that was pronounced October 25th, 2022, Audrey and Philippe's name were written incorrectly. It's written as Audrey Philippe, not Audrey Fernandez and Philippe Fernandez. She goes on to say how slave labor was literally forced upon her without any sort of compensation or consideration by Justice Thompson and Winnipeg Child and Family Services. I think the judge's name is spelled wrong, but I'm not 100% sure about that. For the next, it says for the next 16 years or until Ashley or Alex Johnson is grown and comes of age. She goes on to say how I have been a friend of hers for the last 15 years. I think it's been longer than that, but we'll go with 15. She's a she goes on to say how I'm a registered social worker and has worked with children and youth, and I continue to work with children and youth. I have witnessed, or she says she has witnessed me. It's very odd reading about yourself. It goes on to say how she has witnessed me parenting my children and can say with confidence that I would never harm my kids in any way, shape, or form. Of course, I wouldn't. She says that in 15 years, she has never seen the kids complain about my treatment of them and hasn't seen anything that resembles any indicators of abuse or injuries. She talks about how she thinks that Kyla Miazga and Emily Miazga was coached at one point in time after, well, I'm not sure if it was one point in time, but how they were coached after the separation. And by who she suspects is Owen Johnson's family and him, given the nature of what has occurred. She says that I don't need supervising, which I don't. And she says that it's stupid it was ordered, and asks how the courts rationalized me needing to be supervised while I work independently with children and youth. It goes on to say In summer 2022, um, Ashley um, Ashley had a black eye. Um, Owen explained it by saying that she fell down a flight of stairs, and but one doesn't. You don't get a black eye from falling down a flight of stairs. You get like scraped arms and legs, maybe a few bumps and bruises on your arms or body, but if eyes are indented, right? So for her to actually have gotten a black eye, that would have meant she would have had to fall directly on something that and hit her eye. In which case, why wasn't she taken to hospital? Why wasn't she taken to the doctor? But she wasn't, from my understanding. And not only that, but Winnipeg Child and Family Services wouldn't allow me to take her. Um, since April 2022, she goes on to say, since April 2022, I have witnessed Susan Mayaska has been denied her basic rights as a parent. Things like seeing her kids on Mother's Day, getting school photos, and updates on their academics, such as report cards, medical reports for the children, which is true. I've been denied all those things. I've also been denied being able to go see my kid off, my youngest daughter off for her first day of kindergarten. Um, I've been denied various times throughout the past year access to them. Um, I didn't see the kids at Christmas because I wasn't allowed. I wasn't able to see them on Alex's seventh birthday. Um, these are all things that were and are being denied to me. It's been over 150 days since I've last seen my children, and I'm going to continue posting. I'm going to continue advocating because I think it's wrong what the family justice system is doing, and I think it's wrong how Miss Aquila, knowing that it is not what the judge ordered, that she continues to try and get her version signed by the judge. Um, I would also like to stop at this point and say a huge sorry to Audrey because I really did not want to post this. Um, and I really hope I didn't lose a friend by doing this. But um, it's not right what they're doing, and I don't see any other option available to me but advocating for myself. And this is the only way I see that I can do that. I mean, the court process should have worked, the appeal process should have worked, and it didn't. I mean, I was, you know, I I'll talk to Audrey about it later on, but hopefully she understands. Anyways, um, she says under Susan Mayaska's watch, Alec Johnson was involved in speech therapy at Harold Hatcher School. When the kids were ripped out of their school and placed in another school, Alex was forced to give up his therapy. So back summer of 2022, Owen Johnson registered them for another school. Um, they were they had been in Harold Hatcher, or Alex had, and he had all his friends there. He had been set up with speech therapy, And Winnipeg CFS gave Owen Johnson the approval to register them for another school which took him away from his friends, took him away from his speech therapy. At the new school, he didn't get speech therapy. I don't know if it has changed since, but when he got registered, um, last time I saw my kids was in November, and at that point in time, I had asked Alex if he was going to speech therapy, and he said no. So it took quite a while for them to set up speech therapy at Harold Hatcher School. In the meantime, I um, had him in private speech therapy, and although it was pricey, um, he needed it. You could barely understand him, and he wasn't up to grade level with his speech. Um, the doctor actually put in a recommendation for it initially. So, I mean, for him to be ripped away from that before 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 he was ready to not receive speech therapy, before he was better, um, it really is it really could end up hindering his growth and development. And speech is something that is a registered disability. If somebody doesn't know how to speak properly, if they can't pronunciate properly, they can't get their message across verbally. That is something that is a registered disability in Canada. Now, at an early age, if there is a speech impediment, these things can get corrected with the proper people, the proper tools, which speech therapists know. Um, and they know how to work with kids. So for them to take Alex away from that, that's not right. Um, it's actually harmful for him, but and I've said this numerous times, but nobody seems to care what I think. So, um, then number 12, it says, I've been told but that Susan Miazga has been given um, no information on any extracurricular activities the kids are in and is denied knowing about such activities if they exist so that she could go attend and to see her kids perform or play. Well, that's true. As far as I know, they're not in any sort of activities. I've not been made aware of them, and I have been denied all information in regards to my children from Owen Johnson. Um, Number 13, it says it's upsetting that the Manitoba King of Courts bench chose to discriminate against Susan Miazga by denying Legal Aid Manitoba whatever time they needed to find Susan Miazga a lawyer for the trial. Um, so again, that goes to an unfair trial. It goes to how my constitutional rights were violated. Um, and yet, when I went to the appeal hearing, it didn't seem to matter that my constitutional rights were violated. It didn't seem to matter that an unfair trial had happened. It didn't matter that federal legislation was ignored. Like, that particular piece of legislation exists for equality in the courts. So for it to be being ignored, that just speaks to the inequality, the discrimination. the bias that the judge held against me, and also how the Court of Appeal is doing the exact same. Um, 14 says, I'm under the impression that our federal law would have protected her from being targeted in such a manner by the courts. Why was Susan Mayaska denied her rights to a fair trial and the ability to have a legal aid lawyer present? So that that's a good question, but I, anyways, 15. Owen Johnson, during my recovery from my recent surgery, has done nothing but harass and bully me. My recovery has taken longer than expected, during which time Owen Johnson has accused me of not wanting to supervise anymore. So this is an ongoing thing with Owen. This is what he does. He harasses, he bullies. The harassment and bullying from him and Miss Aquila put me into a nervous breakdown in April 2022. And after that, the next day, the kids got apprehended. So, I mean, they weren't with me when it happened, but um, but it didn't matter because of a medical breakdown, literally, which is technically medical discrimination, because I'm being denied my right to parent because of a medical situation that occurred. Um, but because of a medical breakdown that was prompted by the harassment and bullying of Miss Aquila and Owen Johnson, I'm now being denied access to my children. And now he is doing the same thing to Audrey, which is impacting her health. The second person that he's done this to, that it has impacted their health. Um, and he's still being allowed to do this. Like, she goes on to say the harassment and bullying started days, not a week after my surgery. Um, I received a phone call from him a few days after surgery when I couldn't see, expecting my husband to supervise. My husband was busy taking care of me and the kids. So I feel really bad for Audrey and Philippe because they don't deserve this. They are super nice people, and um, I was really worried about her. Like, she's a really good friend, and um, to hear that he was doing this and what Philippe had to go through. I mean, he's worried about his wife. He had to take care of his little ones. And on top of that, he had to deal with Owen calling and harassing him. I mean, it's not right. Um, she says, despite doctor's orders and Owen aware of them, Owen continued to harass and make up stories about her. Um, not being interested in help in um, supervising anymore. She says Owen Johnson treated me as a servant, a slave to his whims, calling and harassing her whenever he felt like it. Um, Using tactics like saying if she didn't supervise, then I wouldn't be allowed to see the kids, which is exactly what is happening, right? Like, She hasn't been able to supervise, and it's been 150 days since I've last seen the kids. Owen Johnson is presently using um, Audrey. She's indicating that Owen Johnson is presently using her as a weapon to deny me access to the children. Um, at the time this was filed, she said that it was 104 days since I had last been permitted access to the children. Um, she says it's disgusting that the King of Courts bench and Winnipeg Child and Family Services has treated me in this manner and that I'm a good mom. Um, she said I was she said she was present February 23rd, 2023, at the appeal hearing that was dismissed. The court assistant um, or transcriber took her name and entered the room as she entered the room and notified the judge that she was present, and I witnessed this. Um, During the hearing, the judge told her that she didn't want to hear from Audrey. And then during the hearing, Owen Johnson, Miss Aquila, lied, saying they had been trying to find someone to supervise. They provided no evidence of this. Um, Audrey says that she has text messages to indicate otherwise. They were told months prior to Audrey's surgery that she was going to surgery and they had to find somebody. So, literally, half a year later, um, they still haven't found anybody. And as such, I'm being denied access to my children. Um, it then goes on to say how um, it has been a third of a year since I've been that she goes on to say on how it's been a third of a year since I've been able to see the children, and she has no idea when the doctor will permit her to supervise again. Well, it's been over a third of a year now. It's creeping up to half a year now. So, um, I mean, 25 more days, and it'll be half a year since I've seen my children. Since I've been allowed to see my children, since I've been allowed to get any sort of information on them. And that's not even true. Like after it's been it'll be 25 days in 25 days it'll be about half a year since I've seen my children, but it's been longer than that since I've been allowed access to information on the children. um, She says with Owen Johnson's constant badgering, the doctor is now seriously concerned about my blood pressure and diabetes, which is affected by stress, which Owen Johnson is causing, and in turn it delays any sort of healing, um, or the healing process. She indicates what he's doing is abuse towards her. She says even though the order was pronounced on October 25th, 2022, affected her, her family, her health, and her husband's work, as he had to be around for their kids, the judge at the appeal hearing showed no consideration and denied Audrey the ability to speak and be heard. The dismissal was given without reason. I still have yet to get a reason of explanation from a written reason, a written explanation for the reason for the denial from the judge. Um, no real explanation was given, just that it was denied. Um, she said she heard me make my argument for the motion, and she heard me ask the judge to allow her to speak so that the judge would know the impact it was having on her and her family. The judge told her to sit down at the February 23rd, 2023 appeal hearing. She goes on to say that later I was told by Susan Mayaska that there is an appeal order that was drafted from the hearing. It was it is her understanding that Ms. Aquila has refused to put her on the order as a witness who was present for the hearing, which indicates creating a court order under false pretenses, as it leaves off who was actually present. She says, I'm told that she is attempting to get the judge to sign the falsified document. She says, what I see in Owen Johnson is a guy who is determined to destroy Susan Mayaska. Whatever he has not been able to take away from her, he is determined to destroy it. And the Manitoba King of Courts bench is enabling him by denying Susan Mayaska basic rights and the rights to a fair trial and visitation. She says, it's my understanding that Susan Mayaska continues to be harassed and bullied by constant emails and documents that are emailed to her on a regular basis by Miss Aquila. This harassment and bullying is a show and sign of abuse of power, and she has seen how it has affected my health and well-being. She says how I've talked to her about some of the emails that have come through, and which seem to be on a regular basis. She said she's witnessed to the harassment and bullying from Owen Johnson and Miss Aquila towards me, which has been allowed by the Manitoba Court of King's Bench. She then says it is the third time her name has been left off an order when she was present at the hearing. It is clear, she says it's clear that there is deliberate deception that is being made in these orders with the misrepresentation of facts. So this is the order, or not the order, the affidavit, and the next thing we will be going through is the order that Miss Aquila, actually no. So a little bit about this affidavit. So last week, I think it was last Thursday, I'm not 100% sure. I have to look at the exact date. Sorry, give me a second here. So, it's actually on the order. So March 15th. So March 15th, Audrey and I went down to the Court of Appeals at 408 York in Winnipeg. We went to go file this document, And um, we went to go file this document, and the Court of Appeal register said that not only would she not accept it for filing, but she also refused to notarize it. Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but whatever. So it's not like I'm not used to being discriminated against by the court system in Manitoba. Um, so we took the document and we got it notarized by a notary. Um, After which, I emailed it to the 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 Court of Appeal, and I asked. Um, I sorry, I emailed it to. Um, I emailed it to the Court of Appeal and Amy Fortier. Now, I just realized I should have backtracked a little bit in regards to what happened in between the um, the appeal hearing um, and when we tried to get this order submitted to the court, or this affidavit to submitted to the court. So in between, Miss Aquila had been writing to the judge and asking her to sign the order which she had drafted, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Actually, maybe this is a good time to stop this video here, because the story, like the what actually happened, I've got a paper trail for, so I can walk you through what happened prior to this order. But what it indicates is that Miss Aquila was trying to get an order signed that was not ordered by the judge. So the disposition sheet is what the judge ordered. What she is presenting to the judge is not what the judge ordered on the disposition sheet. The register um, told Miss Aquila what to put on the new order to be drafted, which still is not accurate and still does not represent what the judge said in the disposition sheet. So I wrote the judge, and of course I don't have the judge's personal email, so I went through the register at the Court of Appeal, right? And um, the Court of Appeal refused. Um, One moment. Okay, sorry about that. So sorry, I got sidetracked. I forgot where I was. Um, so I had written to the, sorry, Ms. Quill wrote to the judge asking her to sign this order. From my understanding, it went through the judge. So I wrote the judge going through the Court of Appeal email. And I got an email back from the register saying that he was not going to pass along the message to the judge, that he was going to make the determination on things. And, or at least that was my understanding from his email. Now, for me, I thought this was pretty presumptuous because, first of all, he's not the judge, he's not the one who made the ruling. And Ms. Aquila's emails are able to go through the judge, and I'm with the appeal, I was self representing, so I should have as much access to the judge as Miss Aquila does, as far as communication is concerned, but all my communication got stopped at the registrar's office, meaning that Miss Aquila was being allowed ex parte communication with the judge. One sided communication with the judge was occurring and is occurring, from my understanding. Now, ex parte communication, from my understanding, is not supposed to happen between legal parties and the judge. But Miss Aquila has done this on numerous occasions, and sometimes she's communicating directly with the judge without notifying me of it, and other times she's able to communicate with the judge, notifying me, but I can't respond or I can't get through the judge for myself. Now, this again is inequality in the court system. Now, I can't afford a lawyer right now, and clearly, legal aid. Well, I don't know if I would qualify for legal aid at this point in time, but I can't afford a lawyer on my own. So, this is the scenario. And when I emailed Amy Forte, letting her know what the registrar's office said, and she indicated that the registrar's office was right to do what they did, or at least that was my understanding from her email. And we'll go over the email in the next video, and then we'll go over the deposition sheet and what Ms. Aquila is asking the judge to sign. So this is it. This is the start of 6.0, I think. So we will talk soon.